Okay guys, let us now talk about arrays in C. An array is a way to store a list of similar items like numbers or names in one place using the same variable name. Let's see an example of using an array by writing a program that uses arrays to hold or store the names and ages of some people. So I already have the structure of my program. I'm going to start by creating or declaring an array named age, which is going to store the ages of some people. So the array is called ages and the data type is int, meaning that it is going to store only integer values. And after the array name, I have to write a set of brackets in which I will specify the size of the array, which is 5, for example, in my case. This means this array is going to store only a maximum of 5 elements. Now I am going to initialize this array by giving it values to store, and in order to do that I have to write the values within a set of braces, and each value I write within the set of braces is going to be separated by a comma. So the first age is going to be 25 and I'll write a comma, second is 30, and I can keep adding other ages just like that. Now note that the size of our array was set to 5, meaning that I cannot add more than 5 elements to this array. I can of course still write something, but it is going to give an error during the execution. So we mentioned that arrays have indexes. Indexes are simply the positions of the given array elements, starting from the first to the last, and we start counting the indexes from 0. That means the first element, which is 25, it is at index 0, while the second 30 is at index 1 and 22 is at index 2, etc. And we can also access the array indexes by writing the array name, like ages for example. Since I already declared this array, I don't need to write the data type before accessing it again. I will write ages, and if I write a set of brackets within this, I can specify the index I want to access, like index 0 for example, which is the first index and has the value 25. So I can access this index to modify the element or the value which is stored in index 0, and I will change it from 25 to 26 for example. Now we have changed the value of index 0 from 25 to 26, meaning that if you try to print the values of this array at index 0, we will see 26 instead. Note that we can also declare an array without initializing it at the same time. For example, I can declare another array like int height. Let's say we want to store the height of these people, or height is going to be better with a double, so I will write double, and after that I will write my square bracket, and I simply have to specify the size of the array, which can be 7. In this case, it means I want to store 7 elements in this array, and I will write my semicolon at the end, and then after I can simply access each index individually, like index 0, and I will set it the value of 2.2, and then I will do same for index 2 for example. And I will give it the value of 1.5. So we can access each index individually and set the values, but if you want, you can also declare and initialize the array at the same time as we did. And note that when you're initializing the array at the time of its declaration, it is not obligatory to specify the size again. The size is obligatory when you are not to initialize the elements at the same time, but since we have already initialized all the array elements at the same time, we could ignore or leave out the writing the size of the array again. Now this array ages is going to store the ages of the people which we are storing. Now let us declare and initialize another array that is going to store the names of these people instead. So the array of names is going to be an array of strings which is represented by char. I will write char and names as the name of the array. Now I will also specify the size of this array, which is going to be 5, and after that, note that it is specified within square brackets, and after that I will write another set of brackets to specify the maximum number of letters or characters that each name should have, which is going to be 50. So above 50 characters, the name cannot be stored in this array again. So when you're declaring an array of strings, note that the first set of brackets are for specifying the size of the overall array, while the second set of brackets are for specifying the size or the maximum number of characters each element in this array of 5 characters should have. Now I will initialize this array with some values. Since they are strings, the values need to be written within double quote only. Now in programming, it is very often to use arrays with for loops in order to print array values. So we are going to use a for loop to loop through the integer array of ages and print every age within this array. I will first write for, or let me give some space before this. Okay, I will write for, and then I will initialize my for loop with int I equals 0. We already saw for loops earlier. To I less than 5, because 5 is the size of the array, and then I plus plus as our increment indication. So we are starting our I at 0 because, as we said, array indexes begin at 0 only and not 1. So we are going to access the array value at each of these indexes by writing or representing the index by our variable I. So let's see what I'm talking about. I will print the value of the current age. Okay, let's see what we have here. I am printing age of percentage %z, which is equal to percentage %z, and the first percentage %z here is going to be replaced by our value I plus 1. We know that I is 0, so in the first iteration, for example, I plus 1 is going to be 0 plus 1, which will be 1. So we are, in other words, saying h1 will be equal to percentage %z, and the second percentage %z is going to be replaced by the value of ages of I. We know that when we say I is 0, which we have specified here. So saying ages of I is same as saying ages of 0. I'm going to change it back to I, and we know that ages at index 0, which is I, is going to be 26 because it was initially 25, but we later changed it to 26. Now let us do the same thing for the array of names. We are going to also loop through the entire array and display each of its values. I've simply copied my for loop, but I'm going to modify it a little at the level of the printf message. Instead of saying age, I will print name of percent, and we know that the format specifier for this, the first percentage %g is going to be left the same because we are simply counting numbers, but the second format specifier will be changed from percentage %g to percentage %s because we are trying to print string values, and I plus 1 remains the same also, but ages of I is going to be changed to names of I because we are accessing the names array this time around instead. And finally, I have my return 0, and let's run the program to see how the result is. So we see the elements of the first array of ages are printed. We have h1 26, h2 30, h3 22, etc. till the end. And then after that, we start printing the names instead. We have the first name, which is name 1 Drake, and name 2 Kanye, etc. So that is how we have used arrays to store integer values, which were ages in our example, and strings, which were names We can also use array for the different other data types simply by writing the appropriate value types and the format specifiers when printing them. So guys, that is how to use arrays in C.